So when we orient this a little bit, like it would be north.
Okay.
So here's our golf course community.
Yes.
This is Boulder Parkway, 56th Street, Fowler Avenue. Obviously the Hillsborough River.
Mm-hmm.
The purple line indicates our service area, which is not our city boundary, but our service area extends past our city boundary. So we provide water and sewer to folks outside of the city limits. Here, in this area. So that's not uncommon with the municipality to do that. But the area that's colored is the city. So, you know, this is not part of Temple Terrace, this is all unincorporated county, these blue areas. And then this is City of Tampa, and this is City of Tampa. So, anyway, we're located right here.
Okay.
That's City Hall. We're in the building right behind it here off of 53rd Street. So what I was thinking is, these are the two locations that I mentioned to you guys, E Station and D Station. Okay. And then B Station.
Okay.
These are located adjacent to the golf course, E and B. Mm-hmm. And as you can tell, the areas around the golf course are fairly nice, you know, homes. So
especially the ones located inside the golf.
Yeah. Up in here, this is a fairly nice part of town. Really, once you kind of get down into this region, the homes they're just older.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they're not as nice, but the only issue is we may have problems with having enough space to put a small storage tank at these two locations.
Okay.
So then it would lend itself to B Station,
okay.
which is, there's lots of room down here.
Right, in Scott Park.
Yep.
Okay. So what's the existing infrastructure to convey
the water?
Yeah, the reclaimed water.
So there's no existing infrastructure. That's what our other teammates, right? The other team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm meeting with them tomorrow.
Okay.
So you guys the infrastructure I'm speaking of is more from the standpoint of, I know that most of these people up in here probably have lawn sprinklers.
Right, and this area.
Yeah.
Too, right?
Yeah, and
okay.
probably down in this region as well.
Okay.
And so that's the infrastructure I'm speaking of, that if you already have a sprinkler system in your yard, you're going to be interested in tapping into reclaimed water. If you don't, you're not, because you don't have any need.
You don't have a lawn. You
don't care about your lawn, right? Because
your lawn's not very big.
Yeah, or it's not very nice.
Like these lot sizes are much bigger than
yeah, as you get
down here.
Go down to the south end of the city, they're smaller. And it's just because it's an older part of the city.
Right.
But so what I thought, if you guys would like, we could maybe go out and look at these stations real quick.
Okay, yeah.
See, kind of get an idea of geographically what it looks like.
So before we go out there, I would want to ask, like, how much flow are we getting through these lift stations per day?
I can give you that data. I don't have it right off the top of my head, but we can provide it to you.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I told Nate, I should have introduced you to Nate. He was the guy standing at the front desk with the hat on, if you happen to notice. Actually, I don't think you guys have been outside the room, but Nate's the one that couldn't make it because he was out at the breakout here.
Right. Did you fix it?
You fixed it.
Okay.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, they put asphalt down last night, so it's all, roads back open, it's all good.
Okay.
But, we can get you the flow rates for these 3 stations.
Okay.
And that way you kind of know what kind of volumes you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And
No, go ahead.
I think another thing that we like is to get the area of the golf course,
Mm-hmm.
so that we know, or maybe just instead of the areas, maybe the flow that they're using.
So we would have
that
to
they're
talk to these
currently
people.
Yeah, you need.
Would that be with them?
Yeah, and I can send you the contact name for that individual. I'll call him first, let him know you're going to call him.
Okay.
You probably can just call and say, hey, what are you guys using annually on your flows? And Nate may know that because we're going through our water use permit right now. And so they are tied into our water use permit with the Water Management District. And they set your limits on how much you can pump. And so he may know off the top of his head how many MGD or whatever their volumes are. What are they using per week or per month?
Okay.
Right, because the volume of water that's going through these lift stations really, really changes our design for the type of treatment system that we're going to use and the footprint
And also,
that's going to be available to us.
Also, we have to keep in mind for the infrastructure people, we have to keep in mind
The distance.
tying tying into that golf course or tying into whatever main inlet that it takes to get to all of the.
Right. So for us, it'd be easier for us to develop down here, but it'd be harder for them
to get it. Yeah, that's what I was telling you guys.
Especially if it's so far down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to then pump it up to here. Once you get to the golf course, they can probably circulate it themselves. I don't know. The other thing you may want to ask the golf course is how's this all tied together? Is it all? I imagine it's two separate systems because of the division line. I mean, you guys will see that a little more clearly when we're out there. I don't know that they have water lines running underneath of Boulder Parkway. I would think they would have the back 9 and the front 9 separate systems.
So if we chose this location, it would be kind of easy to tie into this location down here, but it would be even harder to tie into this northern.
You'd have to, what you would want to do, the infrastructure group. See these green lines? These are all sewer lines.
Okay.
Gravity sewer lines?
Yeah.
Okay.
The green is gravity and the red is force main.
Okay.
So, so what my point being is they're going to want to come in and put infrastructure and it's going to look similar to the gravity system. So you're going to run pipes adjacent to the roadway, then people can tie into it. That's going to be your tying point. So they're just going to need to figure out how to get the water into these neighborhoods. And it's pretty straightforward stuff. You have to put it in a right of way, not in the road, outside of the roadway itself, and you're going to run it, say, this entire length, and then all these people can tie into it on both sides of the road. You don't want to run it on one side, and then you generally would tie in on, one side would just tie it through their lawn, the other would actually have to go under the roadway to tie in, but that's common.
The issue I see with choosing this location, even though it has more area available to us, there wouldn't be as many people interested in tying into the area.
Exactly.
So land area is good down here, but if no one wants to buy it, then who cares?
Why bother?
Why? Who cares?
But we also have to keep in mind how much we have to see what volume is coming out of here.
Right.
And if there's like 1 million gallons per day, and you're going, okay, well, just going to this portion is, half that, and then tying into all the sprinkler systems in here and over here, I'd imagine.
Well, it's
get
good.
rid of that.
Like it's good to focus on getting a lot of wastewater conveyed into our system, but if that's limited by how much our customers want. Like if we get like 8 MGD that we can treat, but people only want to buy 1 MGD, then what does it matter? So even if we get less flows up here, but it fits the usage profile that
I agree. So I think it's just going to be based on we have to see what that volume is. But those are good things to keep in mind for sure.
I want to say that this station is around 2 to 2.5 MGD.
Okay.
So these stations are going to be much less than that because they basically all feed into here, to here, and to here. These are our master lift stations. That's a master lift station. So you're probably going to get all the volume you need out of this station.
Right.
Which may make it desirable. This station is not desirable because it's not really located adjacent to, it's on the outskirts of the city.
Right.
And that one's even more so on the outskirts of the city.
Right.
So.
What about these lift stations? Are these smaller?
Yeah, they're smaller.
Okay. Yeah. So these are only responsible for a few houses, like not.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. You can kind of see, if you look, the collection lines, they flow into these manholes and then they go force main. This force main, this is a unique station. This one can pump north or it can pump south. Right now it's pumping south because the station is in bad need of repair, of actually reconstruction. We're getting ready we actually have a design team on board and getting ready to take it to city council and we'll be redesigning that station this year.
So would we be taking all of the water being pumped from the lift station or just a portion of it?
I would think you'd only want to do a portion.
Right.
Is this only the sludge to be?
Yeah, because you need to have enough volume to keep that sludge moving down the line.
And now speaking of, where the line where the sludge will move down from that lift station? I can't see the arrows.
Oh, so it doesn't actually show, but it goes under the river. over here.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Same with this one.
And that's the responsibility
So
of the city of
basically,
Tampa.
yep.
Once it's under the river.
Okay, well, that's a short
Okay.
distance then. Or for their responsibility to turn into.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is being able to make sure that volume-wise, you don't pull so much water out that you can't get the sludge back into the system and get it pumped down the line.
Right.
Because you can't do that, then that's going to be an issue.
Is there any permits or like requirements or something with the, I guess, concentration of sludge then? If it-
Not to my knowledge.
Doesn't it mean when you pump it to the
Yeah.
city of Tampa to deal with?
Right.
We would have to contact environmental protection for the city of Tampa to see if point discharge effluent levels would be too high, or if there is any rules related to that.
I wouldn't think there would be. You know, I know we get a lot of inflow and infiltration down in this area,
Right.
so the effluent levels may be low from the standpoint of all the I&I that's going into the system.
So that's something we probably have to really consider, is it in that area, a lot of I&I problems?
Mm-hmm.
Near station, B?
B, yeah. And we're addressing that right now. We TV'd a lot of the lines in this area and we're getting ready to line them. And you guys want to know what a liner looks like? Or what I'm talking about? So
Mhm.
you have a gravity, you can only use liners for gravity systems. So you have a gravity line that's usually vitrified clay or some other material, concrete, and it leaks. Not leaks from the standpoint of leaking out, it leaks in. And our groundwater tables in Florida are very high, at or near the surface for the most part. So if you're 10 feet into the ground, well, you're into the groundwater table. And if your system is not airtight, it's leaking. So that's that I&I, you get that inflow from groundwater. Well, you may think, well, why is that such a big deal? It's a big deal because we pay so much per gallon for treated water.
Right. You paid City of Tampa.
Yeah.
X amount of.
So we're basically paying City of Tampa about $100,000 extra during the rainy season a month to treat what is basically groundwater.
Right. So if you can take a portion of that and use it for irrigation, that would save you guys a lot of money.
Yep,
For that.
it would. Ideally, what you want to try to do is get the I&I issue addressed, and you're not ever going to fully have a system unless it's all sealed, which would be extremely expensive to not have I&I, because you're still going to get inflow in your manholes and all those places, literally in the lids it flows in. So the point being, you know, we're addressing that issue, but if there's extra water that's flowing in that system, so I know you're going to have good volumes in B station. My only question is there enough volume in either E or D for you to treat and still retain enough water to pump it down, the sludge downstream, and provide ample water for the surrounding area? And that's something you guys will have to look at.
Well, at this point, we don't know because we don't know how much water is
Yeah.
going through this
Right.
station.
And that's something that we'll just plug in. We'll get something set up in Excel. We'll get each one of the lift stations
Yeah.
put in Excel, and we'll run, our own models for that
Right.
based
And
on
then-
the wastewater treatment plants the systems that you were looking up.
Right. Well, there's like dozens.
Yeah,
They're like these aren't like you can buy them off the shelf,
Right.
but you contact these companies and they have a system already developed.
Yeah.
They already have like a canned system
Yeah.
that they can sell.
Exactly.
To us.
It almost looked like, I was looking at it online, you can kind of pick and choose and kind of create this little, basically, treatment system, as you indicated, and they just drop it in and you go.
Yeah, and so it would be based on that. We would look at the footprint available
Yeah.
based on the footprint that is required for that.
Mhm.
Right.
Given
I think your biggest limiting factor is going to be the tank, the storage tank.
Right. And how much available
Yeah.
area?
And how much do we want to store? You know, if you're using, so whenever you talk to the golf course and they tell you they're using, 500,000 gallons a week. And so you need to make sure your tank is large enough to feed that on a daily basis to make sure that you don't run it dry.
Mhm.
So that would be something that you guys will have to figure out. And again, you may find out you don't have enough volume there.
Right.
Now you're also going to store it, so you don't have to necessarily have enough volume every day to meet that requirement, because you're going to have that water stored. It's just like when we pump water out of the ground for drinking. We're not pumping the exact amount out that we're necessarily always discharging. It's a balance. You pump and you store, it draws down, you pump more, So it'd be a very similar situation
So-
there.
Like, what's the variability in terms of how much sewage is being conveyed by these lift stations? Like, is it significantly different during seasons, like different seasons, or is it relatively stable throughout the year?
It's relatively stable throughout the year.
Okay.
Again, you're gonna see higher rates in the summertime just because of the I&I.
Right,
But for the most part, I think they're relatively stable.
right. But at the same time, during summer, we would be watering
Yeah,
more.
that's whenever you're gonna water
Yeah.
more.
Right. So it kind of balances out.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's good because if there was a lot of variability in terms of how much waste we'd be getting through these lift stations, we would have to need a bigger tank to
Mhm.
store it.
Yeah.
Just to like avoid any possibility that there wouldn't be enough water for irrigation.
So what we could do is, once we find a system that we like, we look at the average, we look at the maximum,
Max, yeah.
and then you would look at the minimum to see
Right.
if you would stay within requirements for
Right.
what people need.
and I think your guys that would help you with the station itself would probably have a pretty good idea what that needs to be.
Mm.
Okay.
So I'd lean on them for that.
Okay.
Now I know you guys have to provide a scope, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I can provide you with some examples that I have.
Perfect.
Not for this specific kind of project, but what a scope in general looks like, if you've never written one. That way you have, at least have some idea how it's structurally supposed to be put together.
Right. So the scope I'm thinking of right now, for sure, we want to provide irrigation for the golf course. That's
Yeah.
our number one priority because we already know that they want to buy our water, and then a secondary would be providing to these homes right here
Mm-hmm.
because they have nice big lawns
Mhm.
and they have the money to pay for the line for the irrigation lines.
Mm-hmm.
And then tertiary would be providing water for these areas surrounding the golf course that are outside the golf
Yeah.
course, because some of these areas might have big lawns, some of these areas might have smaller lawns, so there's going to be less buyers per block or whatever. So our scope is mostly going to be focused on I think the golf course and then these developments right here and the surrounding like the nearby developments next to the golf
I'm
course.
guessing they're given budget too, though.
You guys as a budget as well? Okay.
I'm pretty sure you guys saw that.
Scoping, yeah.
Right, because the scope, like, I understand that this isn't like a multi-million-dollar project,
Yeah.
but I know it's not like $5,000 either.
Yeah, it's gonna
So,
be
like-
several $100,000.
Yeah, several $100,000. So that gives us a good ballpark on how big our
Yeah.
project can be designed for.
And again, a lot of your dollars are gonna come from the guys that you speak to regarding the station or the folks. They're gonna tell you what that's gonna cost.
Right.
And I'm assuming they're gonna give you a design cost and build, so you know what this total package deal is gonna be.
You
Okay.
have
Who
the
do we talk to?
manufacturing?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Who
Do you
do-
have like a contract, specific manufacturers you guys go through already?
No, not for this. We've never looked at decentralized stations before.
Yeah, I guess with pipes in general too.
Oh, again, they're gonna, the folks that do the station will give you an all-inclusive price. You're gonna go to them and say, we have this lift station, this is how many gallons per day it treats. We need to make sure we send the sludge down the line. What size station can we build there? And they'll come back and tell you the size. It's gonna cost you this much money.
Okay.
So, I would think your scope is gonna be exactly what you said, which is you're gonna identify what you're doing, you're gonna look at the primary, secondary, and tertiary, and then you're gonna figure out the cost and then the benefit of the whole project.
Because once this is in place, I can see the adoption of it in phases, basically.
Mhm.
So the first phase would be, okay, the golf course
Mhm.
definitely is going to use the water. That's the first phase.
Yeah.
The second phase would be a few months to a few years down the line once the community hears about it and
Yeah,
they
start
start
getting
buying
buying
it.
in, yeah.
But then long term, 5+ years would be these areas surrounding
Yeah.
the golf course.
If you have the volume.
If we have the volume, yeah. If we have limited volume and we can only provide for the golf course in these areas, I think that'd be a success still.
Yeah, even if it was just a golf course.
Yeah.
Because
So-
they may come back and say, from our standpoint, we would say, well, the golf course is owned by the city,
Right.
but there's a company that's taking it over right now, so I think they finally got it back, so it's an odd relationship. To be truthful, I still don't quite understand it totally myself, but they may come back and say, yeah, this is a great project, we're gonna save this much money because now we don't need to use pumps and the wells and everything, we can just draw from there. And so it's gonna be a cost savings on that. There's gonna be a cost savings associated with the limited amount of fertilizer now that we have to use because the nutrients that are in the that reused water.
Well, that's based on the discharge limits for irrigation, right? Like
Right.
there is limits on discharge for like the amount of like total suspended solids.
Mhm.
And that usually-
Yeah, that's
yeah.
and that's going to be dictated by DEP or EPC in this case. I think
Yeah.
they're working. So, but again, the folks that design these stations, they should know what those are.
Okay.
So they're going to tell you these are the parameters you have to live within. So you can only, it's going to cost you this much money to treat the water. Or this is the process that will best work for you to get you in that barrier.
So when we choose a vendor and we're looking at products that we can choose, we want to choose a product that is kind of, we don't want to annoy these people with smelling like waste.
Yeah.
Like we don't want to annoy, like we want it so that before and after that we're not going to introduce any new smells
Right.
or sounds or
Exactly.
any new
Noise pollution,
odor pollution.
all those things you want to avoid because these are urbanized areas.
Right.
So again, when you talk to your designers,
Yeah.
you need to let them know, hey, these are highly urbanized areas. We need to make sure we don't have noise pollution or odor pollution problems.
Because a lot of the decentralized water treatment solutions that they are kind of like miniature wastewater treatment plants. And if you've ever been to a wastewater treatment plant, it's smelly and it's noisy. So we have to choose we have to choose a solution that is possibly anaerobic, like where people don't see it. They don't see the physical waste being treated.
Right.
And that's more on us to figure out like what we can choose, because like I don't know, like it isn't the responsibility of these people to be like, okay, yeah, like we get like irrigation water, but who cares, because like there's a big like pit of like waste over here.
Right over there.
Yeah, waste over there. So like we want to avoid introducing any new pollution.
Right. And so having said all that, this again may be the ideal location.
Yeah, even though
and
it's
then
far away.
just logistically, you guys will have to figure out how to get the water from here to here and to here.
Okay.
And that's something that the other team.
That's the other team.
Yeah.
I think we can just, if we leave them with that, we're just giving them work. Hey,
Yeah,
we're giving them billable hours.
Yeah.
We're helping them out.
Yeah.
So the long and short of it is, you guys do need to work together because they ultimately need to know where your station's going to be. But it could be the B station is like, okay, well, this is the only one that really works. It's got the best location, and it makes the most sense. And then let them figure out logistically how to get the water from that point up into the system, and maybe not get bogged down with that.
Okay, who do we talk to about the lift stations?
Nate.
Nate. Okay.
Nate's
here now, right?
I think he left.
And so the person that we need into
He's gone.
immediately is the city of Tampa to talk about this golf club, the golf course, and we need to find out how much they require so we can have that number immediately.
But this golf course is owned by.
Yeah, it's city of Temple Terrace. Yeah.
Right. Okay,
No,
so that's
we have to ask them.
They feed their lines already as of now.
We have to see the distribution lines, how they get water from here to here, or if these two systems are independent of each other.
Yeah.
right. That's something that we got to know about so that we can relate. But I think that's
Yeah, we should relay that information to them.
Yeah.
Like I want to focus on. I want to go see this lift station. This is interesting.
Right.
Here.
And not only that, but we really got to know their volume, so that once we know this volume,
And
and once we find one of those systems that works really well, then we can plug that. Say, okay, well, we've got a few systems that we really like how they work and how they are, the efficiency, and also would people like it there as far as noise and odor, and then go, okay, well, you're gonna get this. This is the inflow. This is how much that lift station gets. How much reclaimed water are we going to get, and that would tie into how much storage we would need, and also that would tie into, can we even meet their demands? So like, what if we're under that? So I think we need to know what kind of flows they're looking at for
we need to know the numbers.
specific.
We need to know the And that's part we don't even know the ballpark of the numbers that we're working with.
Right, so
Yeah,
we need to-
unfortunately, I don't know that number.
So that's why we gotta get in touch with Temple Terrace owns the
Yeah.
golf course, and so
I'll get you, again, I'll get you the contact information.
okay.
But if we can go see the sites that we can develop, because
Mhm.
it looks like from
Mhm.
right here, there doesn't look like a lot of land that that's
Yeah.
allocated to us.
Right.
It's not.
Because like the scale of this is 1,000 feet, like
That's
that's
I guess
90,
we-
that's
we
like
could,
that's not enough.
We could still always like visit those independently after he shows us at least the basic of
Yeah.
Station B, right?
If you can show us at least Station P.
I'll show you all
Because
three.
they're all
It's- I mean, they're all very close.
And something else I think would be good to take into account is what if we can do one here? How hard, how much money would it take to double that?
Build two stations.
To build two stations? Because what if two stations is much better than just having one
Yeah.
here?
Okay.
Right.
That's something else that we gotta keep in mind as well.
That's
If
true.
building really small ones, yeah, they don't deal with much, but you put two there,
And also be cheaper for the reclaimed water people. so
exactly,
it's
because
priced out.
piping would be
Yeah,
much
Right.
simpler.
And then once you
Infrastructure.
cross this road, it's gonna be really expensive to dig under it and like route it under.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd have to, trucks like drill it.
And that's cost that we have to
Yeah.
account.
So you're saying
Well, they would,
They would have to
infrastructure
account for it,
team.
but
I still like Vita because our sludge disposal pipe, or a lot of distance to go from there. But the other two stations, if we did make two mini ones, we would have two.
right, but this one, I believe you said routes to that one.
And then it routes down to here, it goes to gravity,
Oh, okay.
and then ultimately flows down into that system.
Okay, so our sludge, maybe
Yeah,
we
it'd
could
take a
do,
longer
maybe we
time
could
to
do
get
maybe we could do a new route for our sludge pipeline and have it run through here and connect to that one and have that one tie into that one, and then just.
Yeah, I
Choose
can tell you
Make sure
that
that
it's gonna be
doesn't clog
expensive.
up.
That's expensive.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I would
It's just
try and
not-
utilize the existing infrastructure, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
He's right.
I would try and utilize the existing infrastructure as much as possible from the standpoint of wastewater. You start putting in new water or new force mains, it's a lot of money. And then you have to figure out, do we have right of way? I would just try and stick with the existing infrastructure and make sure that your flow rates, that you're not gonna overburden put so much sludge in there that it sticks in the line and then we got problems, especially once it gets gravity.
Don't want it to clog.
Yeah, clogs are bad.
like I already have issues with like developing in either of these spots because they're really close to.
Yeah, but I mean
They're
that's
right in
something
the
that.
heart of
They're right in the
residential communities, yeah.
Right, but I think it'd be worth
Worth
You know,
looking
worth
into.
looking
Yeah,
into.
worth looking
Okay.
into.
Drive by and take a look. I think B is probably gonna be the one you guys ultimately decide to choose,
I
but
think we're all in agreement on. As soon as you told us B had.
Like, look how much land is available.
Right, I
to
mean,
Yeah.
us.
putting a storage tank down here, I think would be our.
It'd be easy
Yeah.
because like you have
Big
someone like
storage.
if you have a storage tank over here, you're going to be digging up either someone's private property
Yeah.
Or the golf course. Yeah.
Right, and the
which
golf
no one
course-
wants.
no,
Like
no
who
one
like
would
oh
do
yeah,
that.
we can't just hit it.
you
It's
got this
like
big tank out there that's unsightly, so.
Yeah, no one would go for that.
you can you can be like oh it's an obstruction and it makes the golf course hard.
Yeah, there you
but
go.
like no, I don't think that's gonna fly.
It's not the,
I don't think that's gonna fly.
It's not the water hazard they're looking for.
No, they're not.
Yeah. So, all right, well, you guys, you're going to go out in the field, take a look?
Yeah, let's
See
look
what-
at B.
Okay.
Look at B.
I have an SUV, I think we could probably all get in it
Okay,
if
cool.
you want. It's my personal vehicle. I don't actually have a city vehicle, sadly.
It's not in the budget yet. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I've been trying to budget it for a while. Hey, we can come back